The Jimmy Olsen Radio Network.
Spinal adjustments provided by Dr. Chad Rolfson. The Spinal Tuning Chiropractic Center is a Des Moines area low flat fee per month unlimited chiropractic care practice. When life happens, just adjust. Schedule today at spinaltuning.com. Barbecue provided by Kenny's Rib Wagon, catering ribs for your pleasure and serving daily at Plaza Pub, 62nd and Douglas in Des Moines across from Merle Hay Mall. Find Kenny's Rib Wagon on Facebook. Dimension, a measurable extent of some kind such as length, breadth, depth, or height. An aspect or feature of a situation, problem, or thing. Fear, an unpleasant emotion caused by the belief that someone or something is dangerous, likely to cause pain or a threat. Knowledge, facts, information, and skills acquired by a person through experience or education. The theoretical or practical understanding of a subject. Awareness of familiarity gained by experience of a fact or situation. Imagination, the faculty or action of forming new ideas, or images or concepts or external objects not present to the senses. The ability of the mind to be creative or resourceful, the part of the mind that imagines things. A dimension, as vast as space and is as timeless as infinity, between light and dark, somewhere in the middle of science and superstition, lying between fear and knowledge, the dimension of imagination. It's Bible story time. Gideon as a judge, Judges 6:1 through 7:25. Once again, the people of Israel sinned against the Lord, so he let the people of Midian rule them for 7 years. Now, the Midianites were stronger than Israel, and the people of Israel hid from them in caves and other safe places in the hills. Whenever the Israelites would plant their crops, the Midianites would come with the Amalekites and the desert tribes and attack them. They would camp on the land and destroy the crops as far south as the area around Gaza. They would take all the sheep, cattle, and donkeys and leave nothing for the Israelites to live on. They would come with their livestock in tents as thick as locusts. They and their camels were too many to count. They came and devastated the land, and Israel was helpless against them. Then the people of Israel cried out to the Lord for help against the Midianites. And he sent a prophet who brought them this message from the Lord, the God of Israel. I brought you out of slavery in Egypt. I rescued you from the Egyptians and from the people who fought you here in this land. I drove them out as you advanced. I gave you their land. I told you that I am the Lord your God and that you should not worship the gods of the Amorites, whose land you are living in. But you have not listened to me. Then the Lord's angel came to the village of Orpha and sat under the oak tree that belonged to Joash, a man of the clan of Abiezer. His son, Gideon, was threshing some wheat secretly in a winepress so that the Midianites would not see him. The Lord's angel appeared to him there and said, "The Lord is with you, brave and mighty man." Gideon said to him, "If I may ask, sir, why has all this happened to us if the Lord is with us? What happened to all the wonderful things that our fathers told us the Lord used to do? How he brought them out of Egypt. The Lord has abandoned us and left us at the mercy of the Midianites." Then the Lord ordered him, "Go with all your great strength and rescue Israel from the Midianites. I myself am sending you." Gideon replied, "But Lord, how can I rescue Israel? My clan is the weakest in the tribe of Manasseh, and I am the least important member of my family." Now the Lord answered, "You can do it because I will help you. You will crush the Midianites as easy as if they were only one man." Gideon replied, "If you are pleased with me, give me some proof that you are really the Lord. Please do not leave until I bring you an offering of food." He said, "I will stay until you come back." So Gideon went into his house and cooked a young goat and used a bushel of flour to make bread without any yeast. He put the meat in a basket and the broth in a pot, brought them to the Lord's angel under the oak tree, and gave them to him. The angel told him, Put the meat and the bread on this rock, and pour the broth over them. Gideon did so. Then the Lord's angel reached out and touched the meat and the bread with the end of the stick he was holding. Fire came out of the rock and burned up all the meat and the bread. Then the angel disappeared. Gideon then realized that it was the Lord's angel he had seen, and he said in terror, "Sovereign Lord, I have seen your angel face to face." But the Lord told him, "Peace. Do not be afraid. You will not die." Gideon built an altar to the Lord there and named it "The Lord is Peace." It is still standing in Ophrah, which belongs to the clan of Abiezer. The night the Lord told Gideon, "Take your father's bull and another bull 7 years old. Tear down your father's altar to Baal, and cut down the symbols of the goddesses Asherah, which is beside it. Build a well-constructed altar to the Lord your God on top of this mound. Then take the second bull and burn it whole as an offering, using for firewood the symbol of Asherah you cut down." So Gideon took 10 of his servants and did what the Lord had told him. He was too afraid of his family and the people in town to do it by day, so he did it at night. When the people in town got up early in the morning, they found that the altar to Baal and the symbol of Asherah had been cut down, and that the second bull had been burned on the altar that had been built there. Then they asked each other, "Who did this?" They investigated and found out that Gideon, son of Joash, had done it. Then they said to Joash, "Bring your son out here so that we can kill him." He tore down the altar to Baal and cut down the symbol of Asherah beside it. But Joash said to all those who confronted him, "Are you arguing for Baal? Are you defending him? Anyone who argues for him will be killed before morning. If Baal is a god, let him defend himself. It is his altar that was torn down." From then on, Gideon was known as Jerubbaal, because Joash said, "Let Baal defend himself. It is his altar that was torn down." Then the Midianites, the Amalekites, and the desert tribes assembled across the Jordan River and camped in Jezreel Valley. The Spirit of the Lord took control of Gideon, and he blew a trumpet to call the men of the clan of Abiezer to follow him. He sent messengers throughout the territory of both parts of Manasseh to call them to follow him. He sent messengers to the tribes of Asher, Zebulun, and Naphtali, and they also came to join him. Then Gideon said to God, "You said that you have decided to use me to rescue Israel. Well, I'm putting some wool on the ground where we thresh the wheat. If in the morning there is dew only on the wool but not the ground, then I will know that you are going to use me to rescue Israel." That is exactly what happened. When Gideon got up early the next morning, he squeezed the wool and wrung enough dew out to fill a bowl with water. Then Gideon said to God, "Don't be angry with me. Let me speak just once more. Please let me make one more test with the wool. This time, let the wool be dry and the ground be wet." That night, God did that very thing. The next morning, the wool was dry, but the ground was wet with dew. One day, Gideon and all his men got up early and camped beside Harod Spring. The Midianite camp was in the valley to the north of them by Moreh Hill. The Lord said to Gideon, "The men you have are too many for me to give them victory over the Midianites. They might think that they had won by themselves and so give me no credit. Announce to the people, anyone who is afraid should go back home, and we will stay here at Mount Gilead." So 22,000 went back, but 10,000 stayed. Then the Lord said to Gideon, "You still have too many men. Take me down to the water, and I will separate them for you there. If I tell you a man should go with you, he will go. If I tell you a man should not go with you, he will not go." Well, Gideon took the men down to the water, and the Lord told him, "Separate everyone who laps up the water by using his tongue like a dog for everyone who gets down on his knees to drink." There were 300 men who scooped up water in their hands and lapped it, and the others got down on their knees to drink. The Lord said to Gideon, "I will rescue you and give you victory over the Midianites with 300 men who lapped the water. Tell everyone else to go home." So Gideon sent all the Israelites home except the 300, who kept the supplies and trumpets. The Midianite camp was below them in the valley. That night the Lord commanded Gideon, "Get up and attack the camp. I am giving you victory over it, but if you are afraid to attack, go down to the camp with your servant Purah. You will hear what they are saying, and then you will have the courage to attack." So Gideon and his servant Purah went down to the edge of the enemy camp. The Midianites and the Amalekites and the desert tribesmen were spread out in the valley like a swarm of locusts, and they had as many camels as there are grains of sand on the seashore. When Gideon arrived, he heard a man telling a friend about a dream. He was saying, "I dreamed that a loaf of barley bread rolled into our camp and it hit a tent. Then the tent collapsed and lay flat on the ground." His friend replied, "It's the sword of the Israelite, Gideon, son of Joash. It can't mean anything else. God has given him victory over Midian and our whole army." When Gideon heard about the man's dream and what it meant, he fell to his knees and worshipped the Lord. Then he went back to the Israelite camp and said, "Get up. The Lord is giving you victory over the Midianite army." He divided his 300 men into 3 groups and gave each man a trumpet and a jar with a torch inside it. He told them, "When I get to the edge of the camp, watch me and do what I do. When my group and I blow our trumpets, then you blow yours all around the camp and shout, 'For the Lord and for Gideon.'" Gideon and his 100 men came to the edge of the camp a while before midnight, just after the guard had been changed. Then they blew the trumpets and broke the jars they were holding, and the other 2 groups did the same. They all held the torches in their left hands and the trumpets in their right and shouted, "A sword for the Lord and for Gideon." Every man stood in his place around the camp, and the whole enemy army ran away yelling. While Gideon's men were blowing their trumpets, the Lord made the enemy's troops attack each other with their swords. They ran toward Zarethan as far as Beth Shittah, as far as the town of Abel Moleh near Tabbath. Then men from the tribes of Naphtali, Asher, and both parts of Manasseh were called out, and they pursued the Midianites. Gideon sent messengers through all the hill country of Ephraim to say, "Come down and fight the Midianites. Hold the Jordan River and the streams as far as Bethbara, to keep the Midianites from crossing them." The men of Ephraim were called together, and they held the Jordan River and the streams as far as Bethbara. They captured the 2 Midianite chiefs, Oreb and Zeb. They killed Oreb at Oreb Rock and Zeb at Winepress of Zeb. They continued to pursue the Midianites and brought the heads of Oreb and Zeb to Gideon, who was now east of the Jordan. Gideon as judge. Judges 6:1 through 7:25. If you enjoyed this story, share it on social media, both Facebook and Twitter. You can also find me there at My Buddy Jimmy, even on YouTube at My Buddy Jimmy 101. And where you listen to your favorite podcast, be sure to rate this, and I would appreciate that. Thank you for listening to Bible Storytime.
The Jimmy Olsen Radio Network.